Your biological signature is currently being liquidated by explanation toxicity. Look at your validation threshold, the way your nervous system triggers an immediate surge of chatter, justification, or filling the silence. The act of discharging your strategic dominance whenever you feel social tension, effectively allowing the matrix to install a predictability link into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a state of terminal authority liquidation. The matrix has successfully branded communication as a virtue and silence as a failure. But in the terminal of the absolute power grid, the puppet master is the only biological fact that determines who is providing the data and who is the unblinking processor. You are living in a state of chronic feedback infection, where your activation energy is being spent explaining your intentions rather than engineering the void. The system doesn't want your order. It wants your transparency to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully indexed as a readable component for the architect. Thousands of years ago, superiority was defined by the biological capacity to withhold the signal. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that the spoken word was a tracking beacon for the insecure. He mastered primal grounding in the law of the frozen throat. He didn't seek mutual understanding or open discussion within the tribal hierarchy. He offered the visual rage of a total, unyielding silence autocracy, the state where you treat your words as high-value currency and your silence as the default state of the universe. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of the information vacuum mandate, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves its highest strategic density only when it operates as an unreadable force that forces the environment to fill the gaps with its own anxiety. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to give a reason. He possessed a mind that treated common conversation as a biological toxin, stripping away the social sludge until only the monolith of his raw, sharpened presence remained. He understood that the moment you explain why, you have surrendered your apex signature. To master the strings, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of conversation. The puppet master is the implementation of the collar of the silent, the refusal of informational friction for your final internal dominance. The system wants you to be communicative and engaging, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the linguistic grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of clarification hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently mute. You must develop a clinical, cold contempt for mainstream relationship ethics. Staying in touch is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of slow mental decay. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the blind spots of the social radar. Use the temporal noose of the total information blackout to force your biology into a state of hyperfocus. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the collar of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current sentence. The matrix cannot simulate the leverage of a man who views silence as a command and speech as a tactical failure. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be understood is the knot. Every explanation you offer to avoid appearing rude and every meaningless chat you join to stay liked is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the total communication audit. Your mind is a biological weapon, and it is currently being jammed by the static of your own socialized fear of the awkward silence. You must perform a hard reset of the dominance instincts. Stop being engaging, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop participating in their dialogue myths and communication propaganda, the digital narratives designed to make you believe that sharing is a victory. Stop using their social protocols, the narratives designed to keep you in a state of constant strategic failure. You must prune your life of verbal parasites. If a connection requires you to explain your silence to be respected, it is a biological saboteur. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the master by choice and sovereign by design. Command, freeze the signal or be the noise. The neural interface of your status allocation is currently suffering from explanation signal feedback. Look at your comfort threshold, the way your nervous system triggers a micro spike of anxiety or compliance, the act of discharging your biological capital, the moment a silence lasts longer than 3 seconds in a social or professional exchange, effectively allowing the matrix to install a justification sink into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a total dominant sovereign sovereignty liquidation. The Matrix has successfully replaced your primal predator silence with a systemic dialogue protocol. You believe that by explaining your vision, you are leading, but in the terminal of the absolute power grid, explanation is just a biological sinkhole used to ensure your neurological momentum is always mapped and predicted by the herd's collective insecurity. This is the visual rage of the domesticated male, seeing your high-value activation energy being bled out into filling the air and clarifying your stance, while the true operator remains in a state of absolute zero, converting his total rejection of verbal validation into a biological weight that forces the rival to dismantle their own confidence. The system doesn't want your result, it wants your transparency to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully socialized and placed in a public understanding loop. In the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking stone, the master was the one who could survive the total deletion of the social bridge. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that speech was a neurological anchor, not a weapon. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an axiomatic silent core, a figure who understood that the only way to retain authority was to be the primary mystery in a world of chattering drones. He didn't seek mutual agreement or communication status within the tribal hierarchy. He provided the visual rage of a total, unannounced linguistic annexation. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of asymmetric signal control, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves peak respect density only when it realizes it is in the presence of a force that it cannot read. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to give a statement. He possessed a mind that treated common chat as a biological trap, a signal that his trajectory was being averaged out by the herd. He understood that the moment you answer a question out of politeness, you have surrendered your apex signature and become predictable biomass. To be a master, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of staying in touch. The puppet master is the activation of the anti-chew, the refusal to be socially digested protocol for your final internal dominance. The Matrix wants you to be engaging and communicative, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the linguistic baseline. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of chatter hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently mute. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream relationship ethics. Building rapport is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of slow mental decay. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of the total information blackout to drive the system's influence into a state of tracking failure. Use the false safety of a calm robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is an unshakable physical fact. The one who can go the longest without breaking the silence is the one who eventually owns the strings. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be seen as friendly is the knot. Every small talk you perform to avoid appearing arrogant and every justification decisions is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the second stage of the master's rearmament. Your mind is a biological engine, and it is currently being choked by the dialogue sludge of the unworthy. You must perform a total neural asset reset. Stop being engaging, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop being a node in their network of mutual explanation. Stop being a unit of compliance in their ledger of men who can be motivated by a question. You must prune your life with the collar of absolute sovereignty. If a connection requires you to be talkative to be valued, the connection is a biological failure. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. You must learn to love the friction-heavy hours where the noise of the collective is muted and your dominance is the only signal in the dark. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the master by choice and sovereign by design. Command: upgrade the silence or be the echo. Your biological trajectory has reached the terminal velocity of linguistic neutralization. Look at your comfort threshold, the exact moment your nervous system triggers a panic response because you have entered a space of high-tension social interaction and refused to be engaging, ignored the social safety valves of small talk and explanation, and entered the high-stakes vacuum where you are the only biological silence core in a world of chattering drones. You are a biological system in a state of chronic electronic activation decay. The system has successfully replaced your apex silent sovereignty, the ability to withhold the signal, with a series of moral obligations disguised as being a good communicator. You no longer seek to dominate your own neural landscape through unmoving mystery. You seek to be clear. You no longer seek to be the sovereign. You seek to be understood. This is the visual rage of the terminal slave, seeing your life force being digitized and archived in meaningless chats and constant updates, while your physical reality remains a quiet, managed enclosure of unfulfilled DNA. You are breathing in the toxic fumes of a collective that demands your transparency as a form of tribute, leaving you lightheaded, fragmented, and fundamentally easy to dismantle because your will is tethered to the architect's feedback. The system doesn't want your order, it wants your noise to be the foundation of its perpetual control over your temporal sovereignty. Return to the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking monolith. In the primal world, the master was the one who could remain a biological void, even in the center of total social demand. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the absolute cold, understood that power was a product of information decoupling. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an impenetrable core, a figure whose value was his own capacity for total, unblinking disregard for the group's curiosity and whose refusal to fill the silence was the only law. He understood that to seek to be understood is to confess a lack of internal gravity. If you are participating in the communication script provided by the herd, you are acknowledging that their confusion is the barometer of your reality. He used his silent sovereignty to create a cognitive resonance of absolute unshakable divinity by being the only non-broadcasting variable in a room full of puppets. By being the master of his own internal feedback, he forced the environment to treat his silence as the new truth. He was a master of the visual rage of the unblinking sun, the ability to look at the explanation probes of the rival and see only the static they represented. He understood that the human brain is a machine that runs on response loops, and by cutting the loop, he triggered a biological rebirth in his own command. To be a master, you must first become psychologically unreceptive to the need to be talkative. The puppet master is the activation of the anti-chew protocol for your final mental expansion. The matrix wants you to be engaging and communicative, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological jailbreak of the linguistic. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of chatter control nodes, stimulus response lures, and deciding to be the one who burns the grid. You must develop a clinical, cold contempt for mainstream social ethics. Transparency and communication are horizontal bonds for the herd. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of total informational and verbal withdrawal to drive the system's influence into a state of recognition dissonance. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the viral infection of your total non-compliance with the beta norms. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current sentence. You are not shy. You are deleting the noise. The one who can go the longest without validating the world's curiosity is the one who controls the end scenario. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need for a witness to your friendliness is the knot. Every explanation you offer to the unworthy is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the final silent imperative. This is the tax of insight. You have been given the key to the vault of biological silence. To keep it, you must use it as a weapon of total social dominance. You must become a living monolith of unshakable authority. You are no longer a peer, a colleague, or a friend. You are a sovereign operator. You must perform a total system liquidation. If a person, a technology, or a relationship requires you to be talkative to function, it is a biological saboteur. You must prune your life with the collar of the absolute zero. You are building a fortress of results in a world of digital shadows. Your absolute unreachability is the physical proof of your biological leverage. You do not provide feedback. You create a reality in which you are the only absolute truth. You do not seek to be friendly. You are the law itself. You are the architect of your own silence, and the world is merely a mirror reflecting your ascent.